Hello, welcome to Alchemy Animation. It is the 8th part of a series called The Invisible Princess is Bored Again Today. Let's begin. The love between Helena and Caesar was increasing. Both of them were coming closer and closer with time. On the next day, Helena was talking to Caesar. With a sweaty face she said, "I was supposed to tell you all about this yesterday that I'm setting off to help Margrave Ban to subjugate the monsters. And for that all of us are going." But then in a high temper Caesar stood up and slammed his hand on the table. He said, "No, I'm against it." He shouted, "Are you out of your mind? Do you know how dangerous it is there?" Helena asked, "Are you saying I should just throw away this great opportunity?" Caesar says, "I'm going so you don't have to go, Helena." She asked, "Will you be able to complete my share of the work by yourself?" After hearing this, he don't have any reply, and then with a sad face he sit down. Helena was looking at him and thinking that, "Are you seriously trying to tell me that we are matched in skill, my dear pupil?" Caesar asked, "Why are you so insistent on going?" "You hate bothersome things, Helena." She said, "Well, a person can't live their life only doing what they like." With a serious face he said, "If I'm the reason you are insisting on volunteering for the monster extermination, then I refuse. There is nothing in this world I want to achieve so badly that I should be willing to put you in danger." Helena said, "Have you forgotten I am the one who told you that I will make you the emperor?" Caesar was about to say something, but then suddenly she came close to him and said, "Caesar, do you want to miss the chance to see how truly skilled your instructor is? I can show you that there is no one who can defeat me." After hearing this he covered his face and said, "Okay. When we are there, if it really seems too dangerous, I will call off the mission at any time. I will get this done before the winter is out and ask for the permission from her parents." After a while she was thinking that getting my parents' permission was easier than I expected. Previously they stated that they would support me in doing what I want, and they kept their promise. As I was waiting for the scouting team to return, Joseph came to meet her. He said, "My lady, Sir Dalton, the commander of the Red Knights is requesting to see you, and he is willing to send trainee knights from his order as reinforcement to the upcoming monster extermination mission." Helena said, "Not actually knights but trainees. They probably would not be of any real help. We will most likely teach them a few tricks before they return instead." Joseph said, "Well, he needs to get something out of the deal too." She put down the papers and said, "I suppose I have no choice, so please arrange an appointment. I will have a meeting with Sir Dalton." After a few days she left for the meeting. She said, "You don't have to come with me, Caesar." He said, "What do you mean? It's only natural for a pupil to escort his sword master. Anyway, you have the look of someone who is going to cause a commotion today." Helena said, "Caesar, if a woman in a dress came up to you and said, 'I am the commander who will be leading the extermination mission,' would you have any confidence in my abilities?" Caesar was thinking about it, and said, "But it's you, Helena. I have infinite confidence in you, no matter what outfit you are wearing." Helena said, "You trust me too much. You can't have such blind faith in people, Caesar." She looked towards him and said, "What are you going to do if I betray you one day and drive a sword through your back?" With a smile he was looking at her and said, "Then I guess I will die." In an anger she said, "Give it some thought before you answer. You can't die." With a sweaty face she was thinking that, "I'm worried about this kid. When did he grow up to be so blindly devoted? Whose fault is it? It's not my fault, is it?" And then suddenly someone opened the door and said, "I'm finally getting to meet Leonard's sister. Or should I call you Leonard's instructor?" Helena stood up and handshake with him. She said, "I am pleased to meet you. I'm Helena Fresca." Mr. Dalton said, "I'm Nell Dalton, commander of the Red Knights. I have assembled the training knights at the training yard, so make your selection however you see fit. and thank you for your accommodation." However, Caesar was looking at something very seriously. Dalton said, "Let's not dawdle. We will head over there at once." "So would you like to come with us, Your Highness?" Caesar said. "Hold on, Helena." She asked, "What is it?" He came close to her and grabbed her hand and said, "Your hands needs to be disinfected." After hearing this, she was looking at her hand with a confusion. She was thinking that what is he on about? Caesar said, "I'm concerned that the trainees would not readily follow your orders." When they were walking towards the location, Helena said, "Perhaps it's expected? It is too much to expect them to incidentally heed the orders of an aristocratic daughter, who suddenly appears out of nowhere." Caesar said, "Yes, you are right. The Order of the Red Knights is accompanied based on merit. Whereas the Order of Ivory Knights is an organization that consists of aristocrats. The two orders have long been enemies." Dalton looked towards Helena and said, "I suggest you brace yourself." Helena was thinking that what, I have to brace myself? She was thinking that the Ivory Knights received their knighthood through the backing of their noble families, so the Red Knights detached them. It's not unreasonable for them to distrust me, but we will see which one of us actually needs to brace ourselves. At the training ground, Helena was standing with a sword. She said, "I'm Helena Fresca, the one who will lead the monster extermination mission in Vandalium." All of the knights were standing there. They were murmuring about it. Helena said, "A number of you will be joining me on this expedition. I will be selecting the people to accompany me right now." After hearing this, the knights started to laugh. Someone said, "I have a question." He said, "Our mission is to guard you, my lady." Helena looked towards him with a smile and said, "Unfortunately, you would not have the chance to do so. I don't require protection from those weaker than me." After hearing this, all of the knights become angry. Helena came down on the ground and said, "Could it be? Do you doubt the abilities of the mission leader because she is a woman? If that's the case, I will hand over my role to whoever here can defeat me, so feel free to come at me." After hearing this, all of them were surprised and murmuring about it. The person who asked her the question came with a sword and said, "I am Hawk Millen, a trainee knight. I would not be punished for wounding a noble's daughter, will I?" With a smile, Helena said, "I guarantee that's absolutely not going to happen. So try and hurt me if you can." And then they started to spar with each other. Within a single slash, the knight lost his sword and was sitting on his knees. Helena shouted, "Who wants to come next? Come right now!" And then the next knight came. Count after count, all of them were defeated in a single blow. After defeating 30 knights, she asked, "Is there anyone else who wants to try?" All of them said no. She put her sword back and said, "I have taken a good look at your skills." She was wiping her sweat and said, "So the people I selected to take with me are..." All of the knights were looking at her. She looked at them and said, "No one." 3 days later, all of that trainee knights came to the mansion and said, "We sincerely apologize, please give us another chance." Helena said, "The member selection for the unit is over." One of the knights said, "We were too conceited. We will work harder so that we don't become a burden. Please allow us this chance to learn." Helena was thinking that I expected as much. The Red Knights are very proud of their skills. If I should try to make them submit by flaunting my status, they never would have bowed to me like this. She stood up and came towards them and said, "Get up. I'm letting you know right off the bat that my training would not be easy." The knights shouted, "We are prepared for it." She said, "I also warn you now, I'm not a merciful person. I will ruthlessly punish anyone who disobeys my orders or tests my authority, so do keep that in mind." All of the knights shouted, "Yes, ma'am," and then they again bowed in front of her. After some days at the training ground she was giving the training, Mr. Dalton came from behind of her and asked, "How is the training going?" Helena said, "Oh, what brings you here, Sir Dalton?" He said, I have come to let you know that the scouting team has returned from Vandalium. Helena said, that means it's time for me to head out on the extermination mission. At the evening all four of them were sitting in the chariot. Helena said, Caesar, have you ever been to Vandalium? He said, once for an inspection a few years ago. It was not overrun with monsters like it is now. Leonard said, exactly, it's very strange. From what I have heard, quite a lot of monsters have begun to appear, not only in Vandalium but in other border areas as well. A lot of damage has been inflicted. Helena was thinking that yes, the damage must be severe. Monsters were more prevalent in the past, so the Margraves played a very important part. Now that the monsters don't appear all that often, the true duties of the Margrave faded away and only the title remains. She was looking outside of the window and thinking that, so of course they don't know how to deal with the monsters now. Caesar said, come to think of it, there's been a constant influx of small monsters lately, which is strange. Because their numbers suddenly plunged in the past, Leonard said, oh, there is a theory that their numbers went down because of dragons. Helena said, is that so? Leonard replied, it was around the same period that the dragons went extinct and the number of monsters decreased. Helena said, how interesting, is there a connection between dragons and dark magic? With a smile, Caesar said, whether there is a connection or not, all that matters is that dragons don't reappear. Dragon hunting is much too difficult for people in this day and age. With a laugh, Helena said, there is no way a dead dragon will come back to life. They were walking in the forest with a Margrave. That man said, pardon me, my lady, isn't it dangerous to bring your servant to our search? Helena said, servant? You mean a god? She smiled and said, you will see soon enough why she's here with me. After hearing this, he was looking at her. The worker shouted, over here I have found tracks. These are black spectre-hounded tracks. They have been appearing in this region for some time. Helena looked towards them and said, I see from the tracks that there are several of them. This is going to be dangerous. The servant said, they are usually not active this early in the day, so we will be all right. Caesar was looking on the ground and said, I'm not sure, from what I see, they appear to be nearby. The Margrave said, pardon me. Caesar said, we had a bit of light rain, but the tracks did not get washed away. That means they left these prints here after early morning. The Margrave said, if that's the case, then we'd better head back for today. Helena said, head back? We are here to look for them. So what's the point of going back just after finding their tracks? With a sweaty face and tension, the Margrave said, but we don't have enough people to fight off a bunch of black spectre hounds, and if a giant monster were to appear as well, then what we are going to do? And then suddenly a monster appeared in front of them. All of them noticed it. It was a black spectre hound. The monster was standing above the servant. The Margrave shouted, it's a black spectre hound. Look out, Lady Helena. The black hound was running towards her. However, in an instant Leonard took out his sword and cut him down. Helena said, well done. Leonard asked, are you all right, Helena? She replied, yes, I'm fine. After seeing this, both the Margrave and the servant were paused in their position. They were shocked and surprised. Helena asked, you said they are not active during the day, but that was not true. So let's head back for now. It looks like we need to hold a meeting. After a while they came back to the mansion, and they were sitting on the dining table. Helena asked, what do you think about what happened today, Margrave? He replied, I did recently received reports of nocturnal monsters being active until daytime. Helena said, have you figured out why that's happening? He took a deep breath and said, to be honest, I was not planning on mentioning this. But have you ever heard of the Church of Draco? One of them said, isn't that the new religion that worships dragons? The Margrave replied, that's correct. There was a time last spring when their devotees visited here. They were just spewing nonsense, so I did not pay them any mind at that time. Helena asked, what sort of nonsense? The Margrave replied, they said they are going to resurrect dragons. I thought it was nothing but dribble back then. But after they perform a resurrection ritual in the forest, the number of monsters increased. After hearing this, all of them were sitting silently. Caesar touched his head and said, that's ridiculous. It has to be a coincidence. With a sweaty face, the Margrave replied, I don't think so. I hear the same story from other Margrave that there has been an increase in monsters after those individuals came by. Helena said, why are you telling us this crucial story only now? The Margrave looked towards her and said, because there is no concrete evidence. Helena was thinking that, for crying out loud, why are you so caught up on evidence? Then again, without any proof, it's all just speculation. It's pretty absurd too. She stood up and said, I will keep what you have told me in mind. Is there anything else you would like to add? He said, no, that is all. I will let you know if I receive any other news. She said, thank you. We will get going then. Caesar asked, are you not going to rest? Where are you going? She said, we have work to do if we don't want to be ambushed unaware again. So should not we learn a few things about the monsters? And then she came towards the weapon inspections area. She asked, the weapon inspection are complete, right? With a smile, Agat said, yes, Lady Helena. Helena said, gather around everyone. I have something to tell you. She was holding the meeting with everyone and said, I will start with the black spectre hound that we ran into today. It's fast and ferocious, but it's not a difficult monster to fight. Their teeth are their best weapons, so they are easier to defeat if you attack them from side rather than the front. And don't ever show them your back and don't fight them alone. Do you understand? All of them said, yes, ma'am. Agat was looking at her with a bright smile and said, you're amazing, my lady. How do you know all those things? Caesar said, that's pretty cool, Swordmaster. Helena replied, of course I'm amazing. She opened her eyes and said, by the way, Leonard, it looks like you have been preoccupied with something since earlier. He looked towards her and said, I was thinking about what we spoke of before. Helena said, what is it? He replied, I'm referring to the theory about how the extinction of dragons was the reason for sharp decline in monsters. So I was wondering if the recent increase in monster was tied to the resurrection of dragons. Helena was thinking that no, you can't bring the dead back to life, but something is strange. I was reborn with my memories of my past life intact, and the Church of Draco wants to resurrect the dragons. Could this really be just a coincidence? Leonard said, I made you concerned because of my useless speculation. I'm sorry, Helena. With a smile he said, let's focus on exterminating monsters for now. Helena replied, yes, that's the important thing right now. She said, there is something I need to inform everyone about. We will be killing a giant monster during this mission. Caesar said, a giant monster. She replied, that's right. The monster we will be facing will likely be a Lucrocoda. One of them asked, what's that? She replied, it's a creature with the body of a lion and the head of a badger. It's quite big but incredibly fast. They have excellent regenerative abilities, so they heal very quickly. They could not die unless you chop their head off with your first strike. So Caesar, you will deal with the Lucrocoda's head. In a confused state, Caesar said, me, not you. She said, it will be too difficult for my physique to sever that huge creature's head. But after all, the Crown Prince should be credited with the success of this entire mission, don't you think? With a smile, Caesar was looking at all of them, and everyone else was also looking at him. Helena said, well then, shall we go for another round? After some time they were walking in the forest. Helena said, A pack of black spectre hounds has been discovered in the northern forest. Given how a good amount of the traps out there have been smashed, it appears a Lucrocota is with them. Caesar said this is bad. It's night time and the visibility is not very good. Helena said, you don't look too good, Caesar, are you nervous? He said, nervous? Me. And then he looked around himself and said, to be honest, something is bothering me. Helena asked, what is it? He replied, don't you think it's strange? Black spectre hounds are nocturnal creatures, so why are they appearing during the day? Helena replied, who knows, maybe they have insomnia. He said, this is not the time for jokes, Helena. After hearing this, she looked towards him. He said, what's more, that hound went straight for you, so be careful. Monsters may specifically come after you this time too. And then suddenly someone shouted, we have got black spectre hounds. After hearing this, all of them become active. The hound was growling while looking at them. Some of the trainee knights were shivering in fear. Helena took out her sword and shouted, to your positions, stay in formation and hold the line. After hearing this, all of the knights were standing according to the orders, and then Helena said, charge now. They started to kill the black hounds, and after fighting for some time, Helena was thinking that, damn it, they really are flocking over to me. And if that's the case, I can do something. She's swinging her sword in a very unique way, and then she shouted. Everyone stepped back to the side. After hearing it, all of them stepped back, and the hounds are not even coming towards them, they rushed towards Helena. She took a deep breath and thinking that, how dare you see me as easy prey. She rushed towards them and shouted, Agat, now it's your time for some action. Agat replied, yes, my lady. And then both of them started to kill the hounds. One of the knights were saying that, nice, let's ride this momentum and join the fight. We will destroy them in a moment. But then suddenly that knight felt a huge pressure from his surrounding. When he looked behind himself, he found a big monster. And then that monster attacked him. The knights were shouting, it's a giant monster. In a shivering voice someone said, damn it, it's a Lucrocota. Helena shouted, steadfast man, hold the line. However, the knights were not listening. They were shivering from fear and saying, we have to get away, otherwise, we will all die at this rate. Helena was thinking that, damn it, the knights are already paralyzed by fear. The only person I can trust in this situation is Caesar. And then she shouted his name. He replied, leave it to me, I will handle it. Helena said, good, let's show them what we have got. After hearing this, Leonard was looking at that monster and thinking that, I can't just stand idly by either. So he took out his sword and attacked him on his back. Agat also attacked him by her short sword. The monster was growling and roaring, and then suddenly someone attacked him on his eye. It was Helena. She was emitting an enormous aura, and then she said, this is the end. She shouted, attack now, Caesar. But when she was away from the monster was about to bite her from back. Due to the sudden action, her body shivered for a moment. She was thinking that it was just right in front of me. When did it get behind me? However, someone shouted Helena, and then that person killed the monster by a sword. Agat came from behind of her and asked, are you alright, my lady? She was looking at the monster in a very serious way. Agat hugged her and said, I'm so glad you are safe. She was remembering their earlier conversation when Caesar said, be careful, Helena. That hound went straight for you. Her heart was beating very fastly. With a smile, she was thinking that Caesar was right. The monsters are all coming after me. But why? Some of the knights said, you really are amazing, Lady Helena. You deliberately set yourself up as bait. I feel much safer because you are here. Helena laughed and said, it's a bit embarrassing to be complimented for something so trivial. A knight said, "Captain, look at this." The man said, "Oh, please excuse me for a moment, my lady." When that man was going away from them, Helena said, "Agat, they look busy over there, so go help the captain." With a smile, Agat said, "Got it." When all of them left, she was again looking at the monster and thinking that, why on earth are they coming after me? What's their purpose? And then she noticed a symbol on that monster. After looking at it, she was wondering, what is this? She sat down and touched it. When she touched it, her heart started to beat very fastly, and she was feeling uneasiness. Her body was also shivering. Caesar noticed it, and when he looked at her, he found a monster who was holding her in the air by her hand. He shouted, "Helena!" Leonard also noticed it, and then he slashed the monster. Caesar grabbed her in his arm and asked, "Are you all right?" Helena said, "Of course I am not." With a sweaty face, Caesar said, "You are joking in this situation. You really are amazing, Helena." She was pushing him and said, "Move, I have to kill that monster right now." With a serious face, Caesar said, "Wait, you should not be moving yet." She was not able to stand properly. She was thinking that my eyes are blurry. She was looking at the monster and thinking that the monster is worms, and its saliva is toxic. Even simply touching it causes your eyesight to blur and dulls your senses. I can't step back from the fight because I'm in poor condition. It actually would be more dangerous to run away from it, so I will destroy it with a single strike. She grabbed her sword very tightly and said, "Tell me its location. Where is it?" Caesar said, "What are you saying?" In a serious way, Leonard said, "Helena, wait." However, she was not listening to them. She said, "Tell me, where is the monster?" And then suddenly Caesar came from behind of her and grabbed her hand. He said, "It's exactly 12 steps ahead in your stride." Helena was surprised due to this sudden reaction. Caesar said, "It is in front of you." She smiled and thinking that he even knows the length of my stride. "Caesar, is there anything you don't know about me?" She moved her head upward and said, "Caesar, be sure to catch me even if I fall again. I have faith in you." After hearing this, his face became a bit red. He said, "As you command, Sword Master." She said, "Now everyone step back. I will take the lead, so follow properly." She moved in full speed and thinking that, I don't see them but I feel them. I can feel my pupils providing substantial support behind me. That is why I absolutely would not fail. She jumped in the air to attack him. She slashed him in a single strike very hardly. However, the monster also pushed her back. She was about to fall on the ground after killing the monster, but she was very calm and thinking that, I got bounced back like a piece of paper. But Caesar said he should catch me, so I trust you, Caesar. Caesar was rushing towards her and shouting her name, and then he grabbed her in his arm. He said, "I got you, it's okay now, Helena." In a happy state, she was thinking that, yes, you got me, Caesar. And then she started to see a dream of her past life in which she was standing somewhere in the forest. And someone came towards her and said, "It's cold, Your Highness." She said, "Oh, I did not even hear you coming." She was thinking that I have been having this dream lately, in which I see my one and only friend, Duke Grey, and my longtime companion. And then suddenly she opened her eyes. She found herself in a mansion. She was laying on the bed with broken hand. She was thinking that what the heck was that dream? She stood up and said, "Oh man, I'm sore all over." She was feeling pain, however. Caesar was sitting beside her and said, "It should be weird if you were not." Helena looked towards him and said, "Who is sitting?" Caesar said, "Who do you think?" Helena said, "Oh, it's you, Your Highness." Caesar said, "There is no need to call me that. We are alone." He came close to her and trying to cover her by the blanket. She immediately switched from Your Highness to normal Caesar and said, "Okay, Caesar." But is it okay for you to be here? Caesar replied that the mission is not the priority right now. You broke 2 ribs and fractured your scapula and humerus. Plus you can't see. Helena asked you knew about it. Caesar replied, did not you ask me where the monster is because you could not see? Helena said, you are needlessly perceptive. He said, according to the physician, you will recover your eyesight gradually. Helena said, that's good. How is Leonard? He replied, now that you are awake, he will return to the academy. With a smile, Helena said, I'm glad to hear that too. I was worried once he found out that I can't see. He should insist on nursing me all day long. With a smile, Caesar said, well, I'm going to be the one who does the nursing. After hearing this, Helena laughed and said, what? The crown prince is going to look after a duke's daughter. People will have a field day about this. After that, there was an awkward silence in the room. With a sweaty face, Helena said, hey Caesar, can you just say something? Anything. And then he said, Helena, I should have sent you back at that time. He asked, why do you keep trying to make decisions by yourself and deal with everything all alone? She replied, well, I was the only one who knew the WYRM's weak point, and I could not let the crown prince get hurt, and I don't want that either. With a blushy face, Caesar took a deep breath and said, I should rather be the one who gets injured. He was clenching his hand and said, I should rather be in pain than let you get hurt. Helena was surprised after hearing all of this. In a very soft voice, Caesar said, Helena, I am willing to sacrifice everything for you, so please don't try to handle everything on your own. Helena was thinking that I'm strong, so I should be the one to step forward and resolve the problem. That's all I have lived all these years, so I never questioned that thought. But Caesar? Why are you saying this? She said, why are you going to such lengths for me? He smiled a bit and grabbed her hand. While grabbing it, he replied, because I like you. I will happily lay down my life for you, because that's how much I love you, Helena Feresca. And then he kissed on her hand. He said, when will you realize that? Helena. On the next day, in an exhausted state, she was thinking that, I think I need some serious advice, because I have zero experience in this kind of matter. So she went to meet Joseph, and she told him some things. He asked, that's why you have come to see me? She replied, yes. Are you too busy to speak to me? He said, not at all. The reports are done, and all I have to do is finish my letter to Duke Feresca. And then with a crying face he said, how am I supposed to tell him about this? Helena was thinking that this must be the letter informing my father that I would not be able to return home due to my injuries. She said, how about you keep it very brief? And then in a shivering voice he said, do you think it should be a good idea to draft my will first? Helena was thinking that's too extreme. While scratching her cheek she said, I did not come here to talk about this. He put down the pen and said, oh, that's right. You were going to tell me something important, then shall we continue where we left off? He said, you have come to me for love advice. How quickly you have become an adult. After hearing this, her face becomes a little red. He said, to be honest, I'm more surprised that you were not aware of it this whole time. She asked, why is that surprising? I never imagined such a thing could happen. He asked, please tell me in detail what happened. She replied, well, earlier at that time he came very close to her and said, I truly like you, Helena. And then in a hesitant voice he said, I have never thought about that sort of thing, so I don't know, this is weird. After hearing this, there was a silence in the room, and then he stood up. When he was going away from her, he said, you can forget what I said just now. I will leave you to relax for the rest of the day, and I will be back tomorrow. And then he left. At the current time, she said, he sounded so lonely, and that made my heart produce a strong beat. That's what I thought until the next day. When she was sitting alone, he came, At the time she was thinking that he told me just yesterday that I can forget what he said and now. Caesar asked which do you like better, pecan pie or chocolate tart? Which do you prefer? She replied that tart. With a smile he said yes, we have such different tastes in dessert, he said here is it saya. She said my fingers are not broke, I can eat. In a very soft voice he said yes my lady, it's your arm not your fingers that's broken. While eating it she was thinking that you sly little thing, how can you feed me with a straight face after what you pulled yesterday? However there was a small piece of dessert was on her face. He removed it and ate it. While looking at it he said just how good is it, and then he tasted it. After hearing this she was feeling goosebumps. With a smile he said oh that's really sweet. She asked why did you eat that? She was in a shocked state and thinking that, you said I can forget your compassion and this is what you do. Do you or do you not want me to forget it? I can't let myself keep getting swayed by him like this. At the current time she said, that's what happened. Joseph said I see a lot of things took place. Helena replied yes. Joseph was thinking about it, and then he asked, did His Highness want you to give him an answer to his confession? Helena said no. Joseph asked then did his attitude toward he suddenly change? Or is he avoiding you or anything like that? Helena replied not at all. After hearing this with a laugh Joseph said, oh gosh then you can just treat him as you normally do. She was thinking that I am here because I can't do that. He said I was worried about this matter. But it turned out to be nothing. And then he stood up and said, be happy that you have grown more perceptive, and use His Highness love to your heart's content. Helena asked what is it really okay for you to say that? He said you try working like a mule under him for 10 years. After hearing this Helena was thinking about 10 years. She was thinking that come to think of it, I have already known Caesar for 7 years. Does it really make sense that I'm so affected by someone who used to be a snotty little boy? That time I thought about sword master and pupil all along. I assumed his attitude was just kindness and trust given to a close friend he grew up with, and a teacher he trusts and obeys. I did not know it was romantic love. At the current time Joseph said, this sort of thing never happened to you before, so I understand why it's so unfamiliar and confusing for you. But what's important is how you feel my lady. She asked how I feel. He asked did it feel unpleasant and scary when he confessed to you? Or did it please you and make you tremble in delight? And the most crucial thing is how your heart accepts this situation. After hearing this her eyes opened very widely, and she was thinking that, my heart, how do I feel about him? That's all for today's video. If you want to know what happened next, then like and subscribe. Alchemy Animation YouTube channel.